Okay. Hi, this is Deborah with Redirecting, and today we have a guest with us who is going to be discussing with me how Blacks fail to support one another in business and the results of all of that. I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself, and we are going to get right into this conversation.
Hi, everybody. My name is Rebecca Polius, owner of Empress Beauty Supply down in Dallas, Texas.
Okay. Yes, as you all heard, Rebecca is the owner of Empress Beauty Supply. Now, it's a big deal for our people to get into these types of industries. It's very important that we do because we actually dominate the beauty supply industry in terms of dollars spent. And so this was a good direction for Rebecca to go in terms of starting or establishing this business. But what we want to talk about today is how we fail to support each other when we do such endeavors and what actually happens when we do this. I want Rebecca to share her story on how her business functioned and what happened and where they are now with everything.
Well, we opened in 2013. We came in, what basically happened was um, we had a friend that opened his beauty supply store, and I had always heard, just like I'm sure many of your listeners have heard, that it's an industry that Black people simply don't get in, opening beauty supply stores. But when my husband's friend opened his beauty supply store, and my husband brought me a picture of him standing behind his counter, you know, and I got excited inside of me, and I told him if we're going to open anything, I would really, really like to open that. So after about 9 months working on it, we opened up. I guess the response was decent, and eventually, I mean, it got better. We stayed open 5 years, which is past the 3 year mark. If a business goes past 3 years, it is considered moderately successful. So we can consider Empress Beauty Supply um, a success on that level. Um, but what tended to happen was our people. It's a multifaceted situation, but our people are used to going to Korean owned beauty supply stores. And the entire beauty supply market is 97% Korean owned. And it's 97% Korean owned on all sides. So we're talking about uh, distribution, we're talking about wholesale. So, wholesale distribution, we're talking about manufacturing, and we are talking about retail as well. So, on those big three, they are 97% Korean owned, and everybody else is in the 3%. So they're so used to going to Korean stores and getting what they typically get from them that they tend to not want to shop with Black-owned beauty supply stores because of stereotypes. And that's not everybody. I want to say about, but it's a lot. It's a large number. It's a large margin. I
Mhm.
want to say about 80% of Black people are like not going to just commit to supporting Black-owned beauty supply stores. They're just not going to.
Mhm.
So we have the 20% that are committed. They are pro us, FUBU, for us, by us. And so
Mhm.
they were constantly at my store, and I'm absolutely grateful and thankful for each and every one. But on the whole, people did not care that we were Black owned, and people would seek to go to the Koreans for a myriad of reasons, which I guess we can talk to, you know what I'm saying, through
Yes.
through this discussion.
Well, I find it very interesting, not in just beauty supply, but across the board. This is the mindset that our people have, and I've talked to a lot of people about this. And the scenario is always this, that Mr. Charlie's ice is colder. Even though you have the same price, Mr. Charlie's ice is colder. And we are the only people who have that mindset. And it's because of that that many black businesses fail, you see. Whereas you'll see the Koreans and all of the others, the Asians, you'll see those from India and just any other demographic, Caucasian, their businesses will thrive in a black area for decades. But ours tend to phase out. And what's sad about that is many times our people will look at that as a failure. But they don't look at the big picture, and they won't say that, or they won't see that the reason that this black business did not survive was because black patrons did not support the business. They totally eliminate that portion of it.
Right. Every time.
Mhm.
And it is like that across the board. So black owned businesses, not only are they dealing with racism from the people that they're having to buy their products from and things like that, but they're also experiencing, I guess, some kind of internal racism or prejudice
Mhm.
towards their business. A lot of black people, like I said, like I kind of touched on previously, they are looking at it from a stereotypical point of view. They expect black businesses to have bad customer service. They expect black businesses to be significantly higher in cost. And the third thing, sometimes it's a matter of jealousy of crabs in a
Mhm.
barrel.
Yes.
Yes.
And so the jealousy and the insecurity of seeing somebody that is, your color behind the counter, people end up not wanting to shop there for that as well.
Oh,
So go ahead.
No, I was going to say I was going to actually say the exact same thing you're speaking on right now. Many times it is jealousy. Um, Here you have a business that we are not used to seeing our people have, and instead of coming in to your location and feeling a great sense of being proud of you and taking our hat off to our sister saying, well done, a lot of our people will have that mentality of, who does she think she is?
Yes.
And it is unfortunate that we feel this way. We always default to the Willie Lynch letter. I don't believe that it's necessarily just the Willie Lynch letter. I believe that it is something that has been embedded in us. This is a scriptural thing. The scripture actually talks about having an evil eye against your brother or sister. And so that's what this is a fulfillment of biblical prophecy. And it's not just a thing where it was programmed into us through Willie Lynch. This was something that was already in us. And this is why it was specified or stated in the Bible.
Right. Absolutely. And I mean, there would be days I'd have my customers that like I said, they absolutely, especially if they're new, they love us so much. And
mhm.
they're like, I'm going to bring my friend. I'm going to bring, guys will be like, I'm going to bring my girlfriend over here. People, I'm going to bring my mother. I'm going to bring my sister over here because they have to see this store. They have to see this black owned beauty supply store. And they bring them over there. And when they bring the person in and they introduce them, they're so excited. This is my mom. This is my
Yes.
Yes.
wife. This is my sister, my daughter. And you're like, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. And they're like, hello.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah, it's
wow.
cold. It's
Yes.
cold.
Oh, my
You're like,
goodness.
ouch. Like, I don't know how to react here because I didn't expect such a cold reception.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. I mean, this is definitely a programming, something that has taken place because you're having this experience all the way down in Texas. You
Yes.
have others who have this experience in California. We've had this experience in Detroit, Michigan. Others have this experience all around the country. So this has got to be something that is programmed into us that we've got to get out of us somehow. I don't see it happening, but that is one of those things that you just kind of look at. Like you said, your response is like, "Why so cold? Why so dry?"
Right.
We should be there for each other.
When you have a business that is black owned and is catering and for the community, it's one of these things. It's like, gee, wow, I built this for us.
Yes.
yes.
I built this
Yes.
for me and you, and I want you to come and share it with me. I don't look at me as your enemy. Don't look at me as, you know what I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
as somebody that you have to kind of hate on. No, like,
Mm-hmm.
rejoice. This is your store. I made it for
Mm-hmm.
you,
Yes,
Yes.
you know? And it's
What?
sad that they don't feel like that.
that's right. It makes you wonder, what is it about Ming Hua or Sheng Shu that you don't mind giving your money to her?
Right.
Why is it that we feel okay with that? Kind of reminds me of Wendell Pierce. He was a celebrity, and he started a grocery store down in Louisiana. He was the guy who played in Waiting to Excel.
Oh,
And
okay.
yes, being a celebrity, he wanted to bring fresh produce and fresh food to a black community. And the response that he got was just overwhelmingly horrible. Now, you would think that getting an endorsement from Michelle Obama would have made a difference, but it didn't. Michelle Obama, she came there to his location. People were excited. Oh, Michelle Obama's going to be here. Okay, so that was good. But then what happens after that was just appalling. A lot of our people, they would interview and ask, why is it that you are not supporting this location? And many of them were like, well, I've been going over here, and now there was a Mexican I'm sorry, not restaurant, but grocery store nearby. They said, well, I've been going there for years, and he good to us too. So I don't see the point in changing it up. And so when I hear our people respond like that, I can't think of one Mexican who would be in support of a black business, but then a Mexican business moves into the neighborhood and they wouldn't go there. Other nations, they don't do like that, but we are so loyal to everyone but ourselves, and we can't understand why black dollars bounce one time in the black community and they bounce right out of the door.
Yep. Yep. Whereas everybody else's, it bounces 7 times.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's just, it's a shame. It's one of these things that if we continue to be like this, we will just continue to not be anywhere, because that number that I quoted of 3% black owned for the beauty supply industry, that's actually for businesses, period.
Yes.
Yes.
Actually, when you look at it, it is 3% black owned in businesses all over America.
Mm-hmm.
And that's nothing. That's not even a drop in the bucket.
No. So then it makes it difficult to support black businesses because you can't find them. But when they do show up, you don't get the support that you need to stay in business.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's like this is a conversation that many have been having for years. We've been having this conversation for years, but there is no solution. And then there was the thing of customer service. Like you said, most of our people expect bad customer service. And why is that? It's a two-edged sword. I'll put it to you this way. Some of the experiences that I've had in the city of Detroit. Okay. Now, we all know that Detroit is kind of rough.
Right.
But in the city of Detroit, this is what I've experienced. We would go to a restaurant and the business was phenomenal. They had a clean facility. They had good food, but you would have those who work for the business, they would hook up their friends. Hey man, why don't you give me a slice of that cheesecake? Hey man, why don't you do this? And the owner, not being there all the time, is realizing that there is a loss. Okay, there is a financial loss. And so when you start to look at these things and you can't figure out why the owner is mean as all get out, well,
Well,
what did
what did
they
they
go
go
through?
through?
How many employees did they catch stealing from them? So this is a two-edged sword. And so you don't mean, and I'm not making excuses for those who do have bad customer service. I'm just
Right.
saying that if you look at everything, there is a cause and effect that we are not paying attention to. And it's unfortunate for those of us who do want to have a valid business. We have to compete with Mr. Charlie, who will fake it. And get this, sometimes Mr. Charlie is rude and mean and nasty too.
Absolutely. And that's what I was going to allude to, is the fact that a lot of us, we shop at these other places, we shop at these chain stores and things like that, and we get terrible customer service over there. A lot of us get terrible customer service at the convenience store that's Arab owned and everything, and we continue to go back. Nobody writes them off and says, you know what, I'm never going to Walmart again. Like those people were so mean to me. I'm never going to this place again, because they were just terrible and they took too long. Nope, nobody says that about those other businesses. It is always when a black person comes into a black owned business, if it's an off day, that black person that came in, the consumer that came in is so mad that they're like,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. I'm never coming back here. Even amongst our people, it's kind of like we have to put forth 150%
Yes.
Yes.
on the customer service
Yes. Yes.
in order to just be good enough for you to retain you as a consumer in our store.
You have to bend over backwards, literally. Bend over backwards, and you have to deal with their attitudes. They come in frowning and sniping at you, and you're like, hi, and they're like, hey. I mean, I experienced that even just speaking with our people. Sometimes you'll see a black person, and you'll speak to them, and they give you such a dry hi that you're like, oh my goodness.
Yes.
But they see Mr. Charlie, and they showing all 33. I heard an elder say that. He said, when we deal with these other nations, we show all 33 teeth.
Yes.
But when it
When it
comes to
comes,
our own, it's such a dry response. And so we get this across the board, and the frustration is just off the chain. You don't know what to do. It's
it's
like
like
you
you
Right.
said,
said,
we brought
we
this
brought
here
this
for
here for
you.
you.
You
You
see,
see.
Yes.
but in their eyes, they're saying, well, you know what? I'm not about to make this Negro rich.
Yes.
Who thinks like that?
Like that. Two times, we were, no, was it two times? It's actually three times. Three times we were robbed. And
I wanted to talk about that. I remember when that happened, and you talked about. I want you to tell the experience about your husband going after the vehicle.
oh, yes, yes. These girls came in and they do this, I don't even know what they call it when they like grab and run. So
Mm-hmm.
these girls came in and made sure their hands were full of human hair. And human hair weave is like the most expensive weave.
Yes.
Yes.
They grabbed that and they ran out of the store and he chased them. They got in the car, but they left their window rolled down
Mm-hmm.
and he jumped in their car through the window
Wow.
Wow.
and was having to fight those three girls tooth and nail in that car over our products. And
Mm-hmm.
they were biting him. They were scratching him and biting him because he was trying to get the keys out of the ignition. And they happened to have two babies in the back seat, a pair
Mm-hmm.
of toddlers that they had brought with them. And they're screaming, they're saying, he's crazy, you know? And he's like, just let me out because at this point he just wants to get out because
Wow.
they've been beating on him and
But
he's
he's
having to fight.
crazy. But he's crazy
Yes,
though.
but he's crazy. But the women are beating him up. And he's like,
Wow.
just let me out. Just open a door. Just open a door. And so one of them opens the door and he falls out. And when he falls out with all of the merchandise. So they didn't get anything.
Good for him. Only for the part that he got the merchandise back, but not the part where he fell out of the door. Oh my goodness.
He fell out with it all in his hands and they hurried up and drove off.
Mm-hmm.
And that was hurtful.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
when I had my situation, uh, the the first one, we were closed for about 3 or 4 days. His was the first situation, but my first situation because the store was robbed twice while I was there.
Okay.
Okay.
But the first one, it just made me so sad.
Mm-hmm.
And I put a sign on the door, and basically the same thing I espoused. I was like, I built this for us.
Yes.
And it is us that comes and wants to rob me. Like these girls should be asking for jobs. You should
Yes.
ask if I have positions open. You shouldn't
Right.
have to come and take something that, you know, we've worked hard to put on the shelves, you know what I mean? And hardworking people are going to come and buy. Like don't that's not how this is supposed to work. And I told him at that moment I didn't know if I was coming back. I had no idea.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Cuz
Me
I was
too.
heartbroken. It's heartbreaking.
Yes. Yes, it is. I mean, just to hear it is heartbreaking.
Yes.
But in their minds, if you press charges or if you do anything of the sort, something is wrong with you.
Yes.
You are supposed to take this because we're black. We all have melanin, so we have to take this from each other. there's a level of frustration that many of us feel because when you get hurt by someone, like you said, I'm here for you, I'm doing this for you, but in your mind, you feel that you have a right to step on me
Yes.
And
and
then,
then feel that I'm wrong if I want to pursue this, if I want to take this further. You know, the scripture says, turn such a one over to the devil for the destruction of the flesh that the soul might be saved.
Mm.
okay,
Okay? That was talking about someone who was doing wrong among the assembly,
right?
right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so many times our people expect you to look the other way when they do wrong.
Yes.
And it's
It's
Absolutely.
unfortunate.
unfortunate.
One of those girls, their mother called and spoke to me on the phone, demanding to know where her daughter was because in my situation, one of them ended up arrested and
Okay.
taken to jail, and she demanded to know where her daughter was. And when we tried to break the call down, you know what I mean? Let's go ahead and get off this
Hmm.
phone. She got so upset that we wouldn't help her. I mean, it's not about help. I don't know where they took your daughter. I don't know anything
Right.
Right.
about that.
Right.
Right.
But she's not up
Right.
Right.
here anymore. The police took her away in in handcuffs. I
Hmm.
don't know where she is.
Hmm.
She was so mad at us. She told me, "I hope they robbed you blind."
Whew.
Whew. Oh
Oh
my
And
my
she hung
goodness.
goodness.
up. She hung up on me. So it's
Now,
Now,
just you have to deal. You're dealing with this stuff from all angles, all sides. Your people that you think are going to be for you are against you on so many levels, and you've got the ones that are just indifferent. They just don't
hmm,
care, and they're lukewarm
hmm,
to anything about race, any issues about race. Um, they would always say when I would try to explain why I didn't have certain items that they were used to finding in black and in beauty supply stores, and I would tell them it's kind of a racial issue. Like it's never explicitly racial. It's implicitly. You know what I mean?
yes,
yes.
It's one of those things you can glean the fact that this person is not answering your calls anymore. But I tell them that it's basically a racist system, and that's why I don't have this particular
yes.
product
Yes.
in my store. Their response is, "I thought all money was green."
Mm,
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 mm.
mm.
And it's like, yeah, money is green, but you're black and you have the money and they don't need it. We are, like I said, less than a drop in the bucket when it
Mhm.
comes to these types of exchanges. So they don't need my money for their business to prosper, for their wholesale distribution business to prosper. So they can just tell me no. It doesn't hurt them at
Right.
all,
Mhm.
you know.
Exactly.
Exactly. But we are hurt when our dollars go to others. That does hurt the black business,
Yes.
and that's the part that our people don't get. In my opinion, I don't feel like you need to be sat down and taught these things,
Right.
but apparently you do. These other nations, they know this, they get this, they support each other no matter what. I remember years ago when we lived in Detroit, we used to do business with a lot of different people. There was an Arab that we were leasing a store space from, and he said that if an Arab were to come from the Middle East to America, he can find anyone in the phone book that has an Arab sounding name, call them up, let them know that he is at the airport and he needs a place to stay for a few days. He said they don't even have to know him, have no connections or ties to him, period. They will put him up in their home because they have that type of brotherhood. But see, unfortunately, we can't think like that. We can't be like that because there's this distrust, there's this lack of love, lack of cohesion, lack of togetherness, period, that our people have. And so it's really sad that we are in this place. But this is where we are, and it's going to take divine intervention to get us from out of this place. The last thing we were talking about was the Arab who can just call anyone, and they're going to let him in, but we don't have that type of cohesion with our people.
Yes, I know. It's it's a sad case because when you support black owned business, often our employees are black, and often we are doing business with other black owned businesses. So when you choose not to support, especially in my case, when you chose not to support me, that means that black people lost jobs because at the height of my store, I had And my store was 1,200 square feet, so it wasn't big or anything like that. But at the height of my store, I had 6 employees. We had stylists, we had cashiers, we had security. And so now Empress is gone, and these people, I mean, they love the place. These people don't, they're not working there anymore. Some of them have jobs and some of them don't because some of the people I was hiring could not get jobs other places. But what I was saying was when it comes to supporting black owned businesses, you're often supporting black employees
Yes.
Yes.
because they typically hire black people. And you're also supporting their endeavors to work with other black owned businesses because we also typically work together. So not only are we hiring ourselves, but we also work with each other.
That's
That's right.
right.
So at the height of Empress Beauty Supply, and my store wasn't big, it was 1,200 square feet. But at the height of Empress Beauty Supply, we had 6 employees. We had 2 stylists, we had 2 cashiers, we had security, we had a manager, we had all these people, and all these people were hired and working. Quite frankly, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but in a place that they loved.
Mm-hmm.
But once things started to dwindle, and it just there was no way that I could keep anybody. So we're talking about single mothers. We're talking about people that society had kind of deemed unhireable.
Mm-hmm.
So they were unable to get jobs, and some of those people are still out of work.
Wow.
They're still not working. I had a lot of black-owned products on my shelves, as many as I could find. Um, you know, Especially if my customers liked them, and if they had a few stores, because often when you're a small business, a small black-owned hair product line, typically Korean-owned beauty supply stores will not give you an audience. They will not have you on their shelves.
That's
That's right.
right.
So, but a black-owned beauty supply store, you have a chance of being on their shelves.
Yes.
So I had, I'm counting in my head, three that I can just actually four, no,
Mm-hmm.
five. Look, I'm still counting. I had
Okay.
5 black-owned, like small product lines that on my shelves that were very popular with my customer base. When we
Mm-hmm.
closed, they've lost a shelf. They've lost shelf space.
See,
So it's a trickle down effect. It's
Yeah.
it's
when we don't support one another, your store losing support, that was 6 people who lost jobs, and then those who had their products on your shelves, they lost a customer base as well.
and
And
Yes.
so
so
we
we
don't see the economics of how this jealousy, this ignorance, this lack of support for one another, we don't see how we are all affected by that.
Yes.
We don't take those things into consideration. And I think it's time that we talk more about these things in terms of solutions. How can we get it into the minds of our people that is very important that we support one another?
Yes.
How do we get that into their minds? I think we are starting to see more and more that these other nations are openly attacking us. So a lot of our people are like, okay, let's shut it down. But
Right.
we should have that mindset before those things happen.
Yes. Absolutely.
They should not be able to depend on black dollars when they move into our community. We can say, okay, you can set up, but I won't be there because I'm going to support Empress over here. I'm going to support my sister.
Right. Because I was an hour the the beauty supply store that sparked uh this whole situation in the past week. This There's a slight boycott at least going on here in Dallas. I was somebody did a measurement of where I was from that store. I was 1.2 miles away. And
Wow.
a,
wow.
a lot of the people in that area, a lot of them, they don't have cars, they're walking and things like that. I was 1.2 miles away. They will walk down to that store. They had a
Mm-hmm.
choice. They could have walked down to that store or to my store.
Right.
Right.
They could have chose either one. And they chose the Korean owned beauty supply. They chose it because they are also what do you call it? Um, brand. They're addicted to
Yes.
Yes.
certain brands of hair, and they refuse to use another hair line from another company that will work with me, because there were some that would work with me. But the
Mm-hmm.
ones that are the most popular and the most well known, they typically do not work with black owned beauty supply stores.
Wow.
Wow.
And
Now,
Now,
that's a very simple way to count us out of the
mm,
industry, to just block us out of the industry, is to simply not give accounts to black owned beauty supply stores.
yes.
yes,
So they're shutting us out, and our people are making a conscious choice to go to these other establishments because at the end of the day, we just don't care.
Yeah, they just don't care. And
mm-hmm.
those that are learning to care, the people that are starting to wake up these days and whatnot, need to learn to make a conscious effort to
Yes,
Yes,
care.
yes,
yes,
It has to be almost a decision every day that,
mm-hmm.
okay, I'm going to look for a black owned grocery store. And if there's one in the area, I'm going to go there. You know what? I need gas, and I know that many miles away is a black owned gas station. I'm going to go there, and I'm going to purchase my gas there. It has to be a conscious decision instead of
Mm-hmm.
looking for the easiest way,
exactly.
Exactly.
because as it does it the easiest way does not benefit us as a whole.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And unfortunately, we were not raised to see or to have what they call black pride. Okay,
Right.
Right.
we just have this faithfulness when it comes to dealing with these other nations, and we've gotten used to it. No one is sitting us down and showing us how this affects us in a bad way. And so, therefore, these other nations, like the scripture said, they will move in among us and rise high above us
Yes.
Because
because we don't want to understand. We have this evil eye, and I'm going to go back to that real quick. The fact that many came into your store, they were introduced in a very friendly environment, and their response to you was not of respect at all.
Yes.
It was a side eye, evil eye look that showed you that they were not going to be there for you. And then the robberies and all of these other things, that is enough to discourage you. But I want to say to our listening audience, pay very, very close attention to these things. If there is something you could say to someone to convince them to understand our plight, we need to start having these conversations. Everyone is not going to listen, but someone will listen. And we want to get your feedback definitely on this. We get a lot of feedback whenever we talk about these things on this channel. So we want to get some feedback from you all in the comment section. We want to hear what your thoughts are and how can we get out of this rut that we are in, because I feel like we are in a spiritual and a natural rut. How do we get out of this?
Right.
Um,
um,
Absolutely.
And so I want to thank our guest, Rebecca, for coming on and telling us about her establishment. Um, you said you were open for 5 years, so when did you all close your doors?
We closed in April of
Okay,
this
okay.
year.
okay. So this was a very recent closure. So
So
It
as
as
you,
you,
was.
yes, and I know it had to be painful as well because there was a lot of time and hours and effort put into this, but the bottom line is your bottom line was bottomed out.
Yes, absolutely. And it was a decision that we did. We talked about it. My husband and I, we had a very long discussion about it, and the decision was that we needed to close, because at the time, at the moment, just to keep it open, we were pretty much we were, what you call hemorrhaging money.
Yes.
yes.
And it's one of
Mm-hmm.
these things, you're just gonna have to cut it off. It was a very sad time. At my faithful customers, the ones that loved us to death, when they found out that we were closing, I mean, there were tears. People were coming
Wow.
in. We're having to console them. You would think that it was a funeral with the way that
Mm-hmm.
people were crying in that store. Employees and even ex-employees,
Mm-hmm.
they were sad. They were angry. My employees, the ones that were there still, were angry and a little bit embittered.
Yes,
Yes,
I
I
can
can
imagine.
imagine.
because they were like, I don't want you to close. I love
Mm-hmm.
coming here every day. You know, this is our
Mm-hmm.
family, and is there anything you can do? No, there's nothing we can do. Friends, other entrepreneurs were coming through and sitting with me when they heard that that was the decision we had made. And I mean, we're spending hours discussing possible solutions. People are like, how much, what can I give you financially? What do you need to keep this
Mm-hmm.
store open? And I had to tell them what I had unfortunately learned
Mm-hmm.
is, if you give me that money, you would be wasting it.
Yes.
Yes.
Not here, and not in this I guess climate. And that was just in April. Not in this climate was that business going to work. Now, I will say, um even since April, the the same climate that I was just talking about, the environment, the racial environment is changing,
Okay.
Okay.
because we're having so many interactions, so many negative interactions. We were already having them, but it just seems very fever pitch in the last
Mm-hmm.
6 months. Our interactions with white people, our interactions with the police force, with the officers, and things like that. That people, especially down here in Dallas Fort Worth, we've had many, many negative exchanges in the past year, and now it's now it seems like, if you're going to do any of these businesses, it's almost like strike while the iron is hot. Now is the time.
Yes.
Yes.
When my store was open, things around here were very calm. I'm not going to say anybody was segregated, but it's just one of these things where um, so-called blacks and whites and others, we didn't just get into it like that racially. We didn't have these problems.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a new day, and,
Mm-hmm.
and things are getting a little bit rough out there, and so now's the time that people are waking up to supporting Black business,
Mm-hmm.
and wanting to see what they can do and what we as a people can do for ourselves, because there's been a lot of negatives. And the situation with USA Beauty Supply, with that sister going in there and getting into that negative exchange with the owner, the Korean owner of the store, that's just, for a lot of people, that's the straw that broke the camel's back.
Well, I guess that could be the good thing that came out of this, but at the same time, we do feel a sense of urgency with trying to convince our people to support each other so that we don't have any more Empresses that go out of business. And so we're going to go ahead and get ready to close out this broadcast, but I would like to know what is ahead for you all. What direction do you all plan on going in terms of business? Is there something else you're going to consider, or another direction you want to go in at this time?
Well, we are touching a few things. My husband has his own business, and it's in a completely different industry than the beauty industry. It's in the telecommunications industry. And the majority of his employees are Black men. So his business tends to keep all the adults in the family very, very busy. Um, and so that's what we've been working on right now. As for the beauty supply industry, I tend to do a lot of assisting in others opening their stores. And at this point, like, if anybody's interested, they can definitely try to get in contact with me. They can just find Empress Beauty Supply on Facebook. And I'm pretty open to it. But at this point, it's relatively free. The people that I've helped, and we've already opened two stores, or helped to open two stores rather. One in Oklahoma, and the other one is in Washington State. And the most that they did was
I'm still
insist
here.
Here,
upon,
Just
just
give
give
me
me
one
one
second
second
here.
here.
okay, the most that the people did after we helped them open their stores is to offer a financial gift of their choosing, and that was it. But at some point, I'm thinking that that might actually pick up, because there's a lot of pointers that I have for people that they're not going to know if they don't speak to somebody in the industry. So at some point, I'm thinking that's going to pick up, and when it picks up and I start getting too busy, I'm going to have to kind of be paid for my time. So now's the time to catch me while it's veritably free.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. Well, family, we have experienced a little bit of technical difficulty. I'm so glad that our guest was able to get most of the interview in. Um, we hope to hear some feedback from you all on different directions that we can all go in to help one another. And we wish our sister Rebecca all the best in her future endeavors. Is there anything you would like to say in closing?
I would like to say just thank you so much for having me on. I enjoyed every minute in spite of the technical difficulties.
Yes.
We did have a good time. So thanks so much. And Yah bless and shalom to everyone.
Okay, shalom, shalom. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your evening. And to our listening audience, again, we want to hear your feedback and give us some of your ideas on what we as a people can do to get out of this rut. With that, I will say shalom.